So my name is Lucia Stout Hubner, and I'm a farmer. I'm speaking from the trenches, or I should say from the mud. Right now, we have a lot of mud. When I go outside, I feel like I'm an astronaut, and I put on my overalls, and I've got my rubber boots, and it's been challenging recently. My husband and I bought our farm 32 years ago. It's 58 acres, and when we bought it, our attitude was in a box that, wait, 58 acres, you can't make money on 58 acres. So we raised a couple of steers for years and would sell them off at auction to get our farm assessment. It's a wonderful place to raise our children. My husband was in the door and window business, and I was in the poster publishing and art business. And so we went along, and it was a wonderful lifestyle. One day, I went to the Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture, and I was shocked to find 1,000 people at this conference, all on small farms, many of them smaller than mine, making money and making a living. And I said, really? I mean, my dad had a dairy farm. I grew up for 5 years on a dairy farm in upstate New York, and my parents lost a fortune, literally, on the dairy farm. It was the early 60s, and there was a drought. So I'll give him my dad the benefit of the doubt, but it wasn't a successful situation. So I went to a conference, a breakout session by Jo Robinson, who was doing research on, she was trying to figure out why the Mediterranean diet was so much healthier than the American diet, and why were people getting chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes. It was just off the charts in America, but in Greece and the Mediterranean area, people are very healthy. And she was researching the research, and she came across the difference between the health difference between animals who are raised on grass versus animals who are raised on grain. And I could spend the whole entire day talking about the benefits of the health, the difference in health. But I'll suffice it to say that it's a lot different. If you look at our short ribs over there, which I'm inordinately proud of, you look at the fat, and it's got the yellow in it. That's because it's high in beta carotene. And the fat from grass-fed beef is we need fat, low fat. Fat got a bad reputation, but we need good fat to transport nutrients to our bodies. The fat from grain-fed animals is high in cholesterol and calories. It's high in conjugated linoleic acids and vitamin E, higher in omega-3. The list goes on. I have it in the back of my business card. I'm at the farm markets, so I'm explaining this on a regular basis. But suffice it to say, it's a much more nutrient-dense food. There's one of our steaks. My dog in the background thinks it's very tempting. I think one of the most important things is that it tastes better. Our meat is just delicious. Now, some people don't like it. They don't like that you can't cut it with a fork. It's not tender. But I've had many more customers come and say, it's the best hamburger I've ever had. Your hamburger tastes, I don't need ketchup. I don't need mustard on it. It just tastes, it's brilliant. And if I take a generic, well, I shouldn't say generic. If I get ground beef from the supermarket, I find it's very bland. My husband and I, we went and visited a confined animal feeding operation. We're doing research, helping our daughter with some research out there. And it was very interesting. Of course, you've heard that lots of concrete. They're feeding corn, soy. They have to do the antibiotics because the cows will get acidosis and their livers blow up. And we actually saw the liver abscesses, which is basically a big bag of pus. It's pretty horrifying. I'm not going to say the animals are unhappy. A lot of people will talk about grass-fed beef as being happy cows. Well, these guys they're not unhappy, but they're like children who are in front of cartoons 24/7 with a continual diet of sugar. It's an unhealthy diet, but they were bright-eyed, they were curious, they were blubbery, they looked obese. I was kind of like, oh my God, I don't like the way they look, but I didn't think they were unhappy. I'm not going to say that. And this is our operation. We're working with nature. We're working with the natural environment. And Elliot Porter, who's a farmer up organic farmer up in Maine, talks about the elegance of working with the natural systems. something near and dear to my heart is farmland preservation. If I drive around the countryside and I'll see houses on farms, my heart goes down to my toes. Having grown up on a farm, if I see the farmland being covered with houses, it upsets me. So in 2006, we sold the development rights to our farm. It was not an easy thing to do. New Jersey has an excellent farmland preservation program, but even then, I needed to have a little bit of a knife in my teeth to make sure it got done. And so this will always be a farm. As you've all heard, I'm sure, that our fields become carbon sinks. One of the great reasons for grass-fed beef is the carbon sequestration, and also the recharging the aquifer with water. Now, one of the reasons that our beef tastes so good is that our water is just superb. We are very blessed to be in an area with delicious water, and it makes a huge difference in the flavor of our beef. Our cows do the harvesting themselves, and they drop the manure in the fields. And the manure patties, they return to the soil remarkably quickly. That could be like within a week or a month. And when I was a little girl at a dairy farm, one of my favorite things to do was to go and kick over a dry cow patty and see what was going on underneath. I don't do that anymore, but my husband talks about one day he was in the field and he saw a chunk of manure kind of moving across, and it was a dung beetle moving the manure, and we were like so excited because the dung beetle is just an indication of soil health. And soil health is our equation is, well, let me back up just a second. Full disclosure, and I'm sure you know this, you scientists know this as well. The grass-fed cows belch and fart more. I think belching is more of the more methane than the grain-fed cows. But when you look over the over scheme of things, the equation is that we're much more friendly towards global warming, and it's because of this soil health is one of the major factors. So Professor Joe Heckman is here, speaking about organic milk earlier. This is a research that he did on a corn and soy farm that was converted to an organic dairy farm, Bobolink Farm, near Frenchtown, New Jersey. And this is his measurement of the soil increase in soil organic matter, and it's quite dramatic. If you are ever near Bobolink Farm, their cheese is out of this world. It's fabulous. Again, I'm going to go back to this. Flavor is very important. Another factor is animal welfare. Our animals are able to express natural herd behaviors. I often see them out there grooming each other. They're really excellent animals. They're wonderful animals. They're very, of all the farm animals, we have sheep, we have goats and horses, and the cows. They actually, ironically, they're the largest, but they're the easiest to manage. And you can see over there, we just have electric wire and step-in posts, and we graze. I don't think there's a blade of grass that doesn't get grazed on our farm. I'm very excited to hear about the silva pasture. I'd never heard of grazing cows in the woods before, and I'm so excited. I'm going to go home and say we got to check this out, because I never thought you could grow grass in the woods. So that's a big takeaway for me today. As I said, we graze multi-species. We have the chickens, although right now I'm not doing the chickens, but the idea of the chickens going through is scratching through the patties. It's good for parasite control. The goats are great for, they help with the weeds and a lot of the plants that the cows don't graze. We work with the NRCS. I don't know if anyone from the NRCS is here, but we've had wonderful assistance from the NRCS. We had a conservation stewardship grant, and we built a vernal pond, which helped drain one of the fields, which has really improved our field. And the habitat, it's excellent for habitat. One night I got home, and my husband Charlie was like, I think there's a foreign, there's a spaceship from out there, and it was the frogs. The sound was just amazing. So the diversity of plant life and diversity of life. We talk about grass-fed beef, but it's really a misnomer. We have so many different forages, and we get different minerals and nutrients. The key to this is management and management-intensive grazing. We keep a log. We're working the NRCS, again, another grant. They've come out and they've done grazing conferences. But on the side on the left, you can see on the left is where we just grazed, and on the right is the next strip. And we rotate every day in the intense, like May and June, and it depends. But a lot of what we do is you have to watch and see what's going on and then rotate. Then we talk about working with the NRCS. Another project that we did was we have a runoff rain gutters that have been trenched way out to the field so it doesn't run into the manure. We have a manure management storage area. Hay in the wintertime. So what are the challenges when I was asked to speak? How do we adapt to climate change? Well, partly I think we are an adaptation to climate change. I think grass-fed beef on small farms is an excellent use of land. It's a job. My husband and I we're now converted most of our income to managing on a farm. So it's jobs. But we are dealing with weather events. This is last week. With the branches down, and we have the extreme heat, the extreme cold. We have the mud, which is really, I got stuck in the mud. My husband had to come literally get me out. It was a little worrisome, but funny. So we need to look into our grasses. We need to do more high sugar grasses, or warm season grasses. We have homework to do. A lot of what our grass what we have is our perennial grasses, and a lot of it is just leaving the field alone and letting the plants come up. But we need to look into we need to do research. We need more trees. We need to protect our trees. We've had a lot of problem with trees, not only from the storms, but also from the urine from the cows. So how can we get shade, plant trees, graze, but not have those trees die? We have an asset. Our daughter is a UPenn graduate. She's a livestock veterinarian, and she really helps us a lot. She's out in Colorado, but she's on the phone. And we're hoping she'll move east. But some of the concerns that she has are for global warming, are upcoming resistance to parasites, new vectors, for spread of infectious disease, new tick-borne illnesses, different kinds of tick-borne illnesses, Lyme disease, and foreign animal diseases. She's seen that we have some pretty heavy weather ahead in terms of veterinary medicine, and also humans. So it's zoonotic diseases. We've got a heavy load there. This is research that she's been doing on antibiotics. She's getting her master's in epidemiology next month, and she's been researching antibiotic resistant in feedlots. You have to feed antibiotics if you are going to avoid liver abscesses. We have to also protect our viability of antibiotics. And this is on the left is just a typical email from her, things to think about. Homework, she keeps me busy. We need more butchers. We have excellent butchers, but more and more people are getting into grass farming. That's the good news. But we've got a little bit of a bottleneck with butchers and getting a date. Composting of mortalities. I could spend all afternoon about that. One of the great benefits of the kind of farming we do is that we're building community, and we're interacting with customers, and it's amazing the give and take that goes on between us. I learn something almost every day from my customers, and we talk a lot about cooking. That network of friends and connections is very rich and very important. Getting kids outside, dealing with nature deficit disorder. How are we going to preserve our planet if children aren't in love with nature? It's so important. Supporting organizations like the Northeast Organic Farming Association. and encouraging regenerative farming, and encouraging people to farm. Let's face it, farming is hard and dirty work. It's complicated. It's wonderful. I love being outside, but people need to be supported and encouraged. And the NOFA New Jersey and MAFGA, these organizations, they bring together people and do education and fellowship. It's very important. And then I'll close with another benefit of raising animals on grass is, I call it vitamin beauty. We need it badly, and to have it disappear is something I really worry about. I don't want my grandchildren not to see scenes like this. But I'll drive, long ways, and I will never see animals outside grazing on grass. I think it's very important. And that's it. Thank you.